So UFC 315 just took place, and I'm going to break down the entire card, what happened on this card, start to finish, and it was a good one. Now I do think that some fights weren't amazing, but I do think we got a lot more finishes than I expected. I did think a lot of these fights were going to go to decision, and a lot of these fights ended inside the distance. So without really wasting too much more time, let's get into the results of this card and talk about my picks, talk about how things went, talk about what I got right, what I got wrong. And one of the things I got wrong was this fight. I did think that Brad Katona was going to be able to use his insane size advantage over Bekzat Amakan to shoot for takedowns. And one thing that I didn't really consider was that Brad Katona's striking is so bad. But also Bekzat Amakan's striking is so good. You know, this guy I don't think missed a single strike. And I think he's legit. I think Bekzat Amakan is a much, much better fighter than I gave him credit for, and I'm really, really excited to see where he can go in this bantamweight division. You know, I think that at only 27 years old, he's still got time to potentially get better. And honestly, just from what we saw, even though it was a 1 minute fight, this guy's legit. Like, this guy could really make a pretty big stamp on the division. And yeah, Bekzat Amakan gets it done. He was the favorite. I did try and pick an underdog here in Katona, but yeah, Bekzat Amakan genuinely just a clean knockout, clean performance. I think it's deserving of 50 Gs, I'll be honest. And after that, I mean, he didn't take any damage. I'd love to see Bekzat Amakan fight in that UFC Baku card, if they can do that in Azerbaijan, because I do think Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan are somewhat close geographically. Another fight I got wrong was Daniel Santos versus Yang Li. I'll be honest, the first round was happening, and I thought, yep, this is it. You know, this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. Yang Li's going to get it done. And he just didn't get it done, did he? He kind of gassed out a little bit. Daniel Santos started to mix in takedowns. And Daniel Santos was able to eat some massive shots, which I didn't expect. And another thing as well about this fight was, in the first round, I saw Daniel Santos. He looked a little bit out of shape, I'll be honest. And I kind of was thinking to myself, man, like, you know, I don't think that Daniel Santos is going to be able to do this for 3 rounds, because this was a high-paced fight, man, from start to finish. And it was Yang Li that actually did gas out. Now, it does kind of make sense because a lot of Yang Li's fights end in the first round. But yeah, Daniel Santos is able to weather the storm, ended up kind of coming through as an underdog, you know, when he was the favorite originally. So kind of a surprising result. I'm a lot more surprised about this result than I was about the Al Khan result, obviously. But you know, like, a very good performance for Santos. And after that, this is where things start to get pretty good. Marc-Andre Barrial knocks out Bruno Silva. Sad for Silva, I'll be honest. Pretty bad losing streak to end probably what is his career. I don't think he's going to fight again. Definitely not in the UFC. And for Andre Barrial, he probably saved his career. Let's be honest, he was probably going to get cut if he didn't win this one. And he knocked out Bruno Silva brutally. It looked like Silva potentially got a knockdown earlier, or maybe Barrial slipped over, but Silva landed a big shot in Barrial, and then Barrial thought, you know what? No more of this. No more fighting from range. I'm going to do what I do best, and what Marc-Andre Barrial does best is clinch and dirty box. And the dirty boxing worked for him, man. He started to land some crazy elbows up against the clinch on Bruno Silva, and ended up just knocking him out clean. Like, clean knockout, man. Like, Silva was out for a while. They were giving medical updates on Bruno Silva throughout the card. Like, that was a brutal knockout, and once again, worth 50 Gs. I hope Bruno Silva's alright. You know, I hope he's got kind of something to do after fighting, because I don't think we're going to see him fight again after this one. And now we can move up to Navajo Sterling. And Navajo Sterling, once again, having a pretty solid performance. Now, I will be honest, I do think that the first round was a little bit concerning. Maybe Navajo Sterling's a slow starter. Maybe he wasn't expecting the power from Ivan Arslan to be, like, how good it was, you know. But this is a good win. And this is a win that I think that a lot of people are probably going to try and downplay, because Navajo didn't get the finish. He nearly did. And honestly, I think a lot of referees stopped the fight with the 15 seconds to go, or whatever it was, that Sterling just cleanly knocks down Arslan with the hook. But you need to remember, guys, Ivan Arslan fought for KSW, one of the biggest promotions in the world, and he fought for the belt twice against Chuzagayev and against Thomas Narkon. Like, this guy is a guy that has proven himself to be elite at the I guess you could say European regional scene level, but I don't think that that's really correct because KSW is a higher level promotion than the regional scene. You know what I mean? Like KSW is a massive promotion out of Poland, but even Arslan, he fought for the title twice for that promotion and beat a lot of their contenders and prospects. In the meantime, I don't have Brave on. I don't have ad blocker. My ad blocker stopped working for some reason, so I apologize. But yeah, Navajo Sterling gets it done. After this though, I will be honest, it gets a little bit scary because he's 2-0. Like, who do they give him? I wouldn't favor him in a lot of the matchups that are close to the top 15. Like, I do think that the next fight that they'll probably give him would be maybe Ion Kutalaba potentially, which I think would be a tough one. But if they could somehow manage a Navajo Sterling versus Ivo Aslan, I would like to see that. But yeah, Navajo, overall, he showed his world kickboxing pedigree that he does have. Was able to use a lot of kickboxing from range here, but he was also able to utilize a lot of wrestling as well in the matchup, which was good to see because we don't really see that from a lot of these guys from City Kickboxing. So I think that what we saw from Navajo was a very well-rounded skill set. It does still seem though like, and I think this is true, that he might have be getting thrown into the deep end a little bit too early. And what I say by that is that in New Zealand, there's like no light heavyweights here. So he got signed to the UFC at 5-0, and now he's really having to learn on the job. But I don't think he's doing a bad job at it at all. You know, he's got 3 decisions now, half an hour of cage time. I think he's going to be ready for his next one. I'm a believer in Navajo Sterling. I think that he can potentially go pretty far in the sport. Now, Modestas Bukauskas versus Ion Kutalaba was a controversial decision. I'll be honest, at this time, I wasn't really super focused. I was actually cooking my lunch. But I picked Modestas Bukauskas by decision, and the odds for that were probably pretty crazy. But yeah, I got the pick right, even though apparently the decision was a big robbery. I know the commentary were making a big deal about this one, but the commentary nearly always score fights incorrectly, so I need to kind of look into this one myself because I did see a lot of people on Twitter saying that they did score the fight for Bukauskas. So I need to watch this one myself and give an actual take. But I do know that Bukauskas won the 3rd round because it looked like he was piecing up Ion in round 3. And then Jasmine de Souda Vicious dominated Jessica Andrade once the fight got down to the ground. I will admit the striking still does look quite uncomfortable for Jasmine. Like, she does look like she just doesn't want to be on the feet. She was able to land a couple of nice strikes though, but overall it definitely looks like Jasmine's, I guess, like, comfort zone is not the striking at all, and it is the wrestling. But once she got the takedown, it was over. You know, Jasmine was just able to change position, get ground and pound, and then got the choke soon after. Like, she made Jessica Andrade look bad. And Andrade is still a good fighter, you know, and that's kind of what's so impressive about this performance is just the fact that she got the 1st round finish so easily once she got the takedown. I think for Jasmine de Souda Vicious, there's a lot of fights out there that make sense for her. I would like to see Jasuda Vicious versus Grasso. I think that makes sense because I think Natalia Silva deserves a title shot. Unless you wanted to kind of go down a rematch route and maybe give Jasuda Vicious Tracy Cortez, because I think Cortez fighting Viviane Araujo. Am I correct in saying that? And apparently Rose Namajunas has a fight booked. So that could have been an option too. I think there's options for Jasmine. She's 36 years old now. She kind of can't really waste too much time waiting on results of fights to happen to then get fights booked. So I think for Jasmine, she's just going to have to go with someone that's going to be available. And it looks like the next available person for her to fight is going to be one of 2 people, Grasso or Fiorot. So whoever's free, I think Jasuda Vicious should go for that matchup. Mike Malott knocks out Charles Radke. Kind of a funny fight because Radke was marketing this one. He was just marketing it in a Charles Radke way. I'm not going to get into that too much, but Mike Malott ended up knocking him out. Kind of seemed like a nice guy after the press conference, telling people not to boo Radke. But yeah, Radke like kind of set himself up for failure. He did an Ingari, like, what's it called when you like he did a humiliation ritual in the build up to this fight. Like, if Ingari lost to Prates after saying that he was more Brazilian than Prates, you know, this would have been the result pretty much. You know. So yeah, Radke went on a humiliation ritual before the fight and then got knocked out by Mike Malott. Not good for Radke, not good for his stock, but he'll be back. He's a talented guy. And Mike Malott, I think, kind of showcased a pretty well-rounded skill set once again. But yeah, for Malott, I don't know what you do with him because he's kind of proven that he's not good enough to deal with the guys that are in the top 20, but he's good enough to beat everyone that's in the top 35, you know? So I feel like for Malott, I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do. Like you've got to give him. You can't just kind of keep giving him these guys that he's definitely going to beat. You know, like you've got to give him a step up in competition. But like, what is that for Malott at this point? I don't know. Benoit Saint Denis, you know, I mean, this was a sacrifice. Everyone knew this was going to happen, and everyone knew this was going to happen after. I don't know if this is true, but it seemed like Pripalik on his burner was commenting on my prediction video for this fight. I don't know if you guys know this, but there are 3 fighters that have like publicly tried to like slander me on YouTube, and all 3 of them are not in the UFC anymore. um, yeah, Pripalik might be the 4th one. Pripalik, you can't do this, mate. Seriously. I could name names, but I'm not going to. But like, if you come on here, either on your main YouTube channel commenting or on a burner, and it's obvious that it's a burner, um, it doesn't work out. It just doesn't. And Pripalik, I did say that Pripalik's boxing was terrible. He fights, his stance is like he's just walking up to pay for some groceries. Like, was I wrong? Was I wrong? You know, I did say as well that Pripalik's best part of his game was his takedown defense, and I was wrong about that. So yeah, I tried to compliment Pripalik. I was wrong in my compliments, and I was correct in my slanders. That's kind of what happened in this one here. And then Benoit kind of just beat him in the second round. I did say Benoit in the first or the second round. Spent the whole first round trying to chase a rear naked choke. Didn't get it, and then in the second round, he just started to absolutely beat the piss out of him on the feet, and then finished him with the triangle choke after getting the takedown. Um, yeah, that's kind of it, really. I just kind of had a little bit of animosity from the YouTube comments on that one too. And by the way, I said that I am a fat MMA guru that has never trained a day in my life. I have an amateur boxing background. Why does no one recognize that? Bitsam's claiming that he's gonna knock me out. Come on, guys. Anyway, Alexa Grasso versus Natalia Silva. No, sorry, don't have an amateur boxing background. That is true. I have an amateur boxing record. Like, I've actually fought before, guys. Like, anyways. Silva, I think she wins against Shevchenko after this performance. Genuinely. I was quite amazed by how good Silva looked in this fight. I thought it was a 30-27 Silva. All 3 judges scored at 30-27 Silva. Like, Silva was so fast compared to Grasso. This is another situation like Yakimo absolutely dominating Bilal Muhammad, which I've talked about in a separate video, where Grasso would throw a jab, and Silva would counter with a jab that would land before Grasso's jab, and then follow up with a left hook as well. And she did this throughout the fight. And one thing that I will say is Grasso, I'm surprised that she didn't just pick up that Silva was defending her jab with a left hook every single time, because I do feel like Grasso could have maybe capitalized on that, because there genuinely was no adjustment from Silva. She was defending the jab with a left hook every time without fail. But I just don't think it mattered. Like, I think that Silva was too fast. Grasso isn't a good enough wrestler to take her down, and Grasso was just kind of stuck on the feet with her, and you could kind of tell that Grasso had just given up. You know, it looked like she had a moment in the second round where she was willing to throw down, but that ended up working out in Silva's favor. I think that Grasso landed a few shots there, but Silva also landed a couple of good shots too. So yeah, Grasso just kind of had no chance, and this is crazy to say because Grasso just went 3 fights with Valentina Shevchenko, who just beat Manon Fiorot later on in the card. Like, I genuinely think after watching this fight, I have to pick Natalia Silva to defeat Valentina Shevchenko. Now, the thing about this, though, that I still bring up, and I will continue to bring this up, Silva is small for the weight class, and I do worry that maybe that at one point that takedown defense won't be as good as it is just because of the size. But she's so fast and her movement's so good, it doesn't really matter. Like, once again, Grasso would get her up against the cage, but Silva would just move. She just moved side to side, and Grasso just couldn't follow her. Another thing though as well though that I will say could be a little bit of a red flag for a 5 round fight is that Silva was slowing down quite considerably in that third round, and I don't think that's because Silva has bad cardio. I think it's just because Silva fights in a style like she's always moving her hips, she's always like jumping around. Like that takes a lot of energy to do that. I mean, look at Mikal Pereira's the start of his welterweight career, you know, when he's doing his flips and he's doing his dancing and stuff and he gasses out in 2 minutes and loses to a featherweight on short notice. But anyway, um Silva, yeah, I just think that maybe her style isn't made for 5 rounds, and maybe if you do see her fight Shevchenko, even though I do genuinely believe I'm gonna pick Silva to beat Shevchenko, if you can believe it, I picked Fiora to beat Shevchenko, but um, seriously, I think that Silva can get it done, and but I do worry about that style over 5 rounds. Zahabi versus Aldo. All right. Call me biased. Say whatever you want. I thought Aldo won the rounds 1 and 2. I do. I thought he did more damage. I thought he landed more damage. I thought he, even when the stats backed me up on this, like I just like. And here's the thing about the third round. Some people gave Zahabi a 10-8 in the third round. My response to that is you can't give Zahabi a 10-8 in the third round when Aldo knocked him down and then nearly finished him as well. So although Zahabi, I believe, was more dominant in the third round, and I would argue that he did more damage in the third round with the ground and pound, still, you can't give him the 10-8 because Aldo knocked him down earlier. So it was a 10-9 for Zahabi in round 3, but I think that Aldo won the first and the second round. We know that he won the first round. The first round wasn't really that close, and the second round was pretty close, but I think it just came down to, again, Aldo just landed more. He did better work with damage, with striking throughout the course of the entire round, not just the end of it. And it kind of sucks, you know, because Aldo then retired, and the UFC had a retirement package ready for Anthony Smith and Michelle Waterson, but not Jose Aldo. And I know the response for a lot of Dana White, what are they called? Dana's, they're not called Dana's demons, but like Dana's, I don't know, Dana White's believers, whatever you want to call them, are saying, oh, but they announced their retirement. You're telling me you don't have at least a package of highlights of Jose Aldo, someone that has been arguably one of the greatest of all time, the greatest featherweight of all time. I still believe that until Volkanovski can match the title defenses of Aldo, I'm still going to kind of hold that that belief. Um, yeah, man, like you didn't have a retirement package ready for Aldo. You had nothing, even though I know he didn't announce his retirement. Like you've got to be ready for it, right? And but yeah, I genuinely believe that Aldo won this fight. I mean, call it cope, call it whatever, but um, I'm surprised Zahabi got the decision. That's all I'll say about that one. Anyway, Shevchenko beat Fioro. I thought it was 3-2. I thought Fioro won rounds. Well, 2 and 4. 2 and 4. I had it 2-2 going into the fifth, anyways. That was my scorecard. I don't know if anyone else like had the same scorecard or didn't. The start of the fight, Shevchenko started very, very well, and I will be honest, I'm glad that Shevchenko won because I was kind of kicking myself for missing out on a live betting opportunity because Shevchenko was beating the brakes out of Fioro, and Fioro was plus 700, I believe, at one point live betting in the first round, and I didn't take it. I think I was like I don't know. I just didn't take it. And then obviously Shevchenko ended up winning the fight, so I'm kind of glad I didn't get to jump on it. Even though I would have covered it with Shev when Shev was plus 150 throughout the fight or whatever. But I thought it was 2-2 going into the fifth. But I think what kind of secured the win for Shevchenko overall throughout the 25 minutes was the fact that she was just landing more damage. Damage wins fight. Fioro was trying to Marab her way to a title. The thing that frustrated me so much about Fioro was she would get these pretty good clinch positions with a strength advantage, with a size advantage, and she wouldn't drop for a takedown, or she wouldn't even attempt a takedown. She wouldn't even try to drag Shevchenko down. She wouldn't even try to trip Shevchenko. She wouldn't do anything. She would just accept the Marab clinch. And I think ultimately that's why she lost, because she wasn't able to use these opportunities that she got for herself to do damage or to get a takedown, to then do damage or to try and submission or something. So I think ultimately that was what led to Furo losing the fight. I think overall, despite me picking Furo, obviously Shevchenko was the better striker, which was a surprise to me. I thought that Furo could beat her on the feet, but Shevchenko was a better striker in this one. She was the cleaner striker. She got the more done on the feet, the cleaner work done on the feet. And I also think as well, genuinely, after watching this fight, I kind of just still have to pick Natalia Silva to beat Shevchenko. I just do. So I kind of hope that fight gets made. I think it's a good fight. I think it's a fun fight. And I think that would be quite good. Now, JDM versus Bully B. I picked Giacomo Della Maddalena. I was very confident in Giacomo to win this one. And Giacomo ended up getting it done quite dominantly, you know, quite somewhat one-sided. All right, I can't remove this ad, so looks like you guys are getting free advertisement from me. But yeah, Giacomo, just kind of start to finish, looked good. Lost one round on my scorecard, lost the fourth. I thought he was 3-0 going up into the fourth, so I live bet him. Doubled down on Giacomo, and yeah, that's kind of where we go. From there, I don't really know what else to say that I haven't said in my 11 minutes video talking about Giacomo dominating Bilal Muhammad. The story of the fight was kind of everything that I said in the breakdown. Jack Della Maddalena's takedown defense is a lot better than people give him credit for. He had a broken arm against Gilbert Burns. He defended 19 takedowns against Hafez on short notice with 2 weight cuts. Bilal Muhammad, his striking's not good. That was proven. He showed that he's incapable of moving his head. It's just not something he can do. But he does have a chin on him. I'll give him that credit. But, you know, you can only really take so much damage before you're just losing the fight. You know what I mean? So, overall, JDM's takedown defense was a lot better than people gave him credit for, which, you know, everyone... If you watch the tape, you would know. And Bilal as well, like... Watch the Leon Edwards fight again. Seriously, the narrative going into this fight was that Bilal dominated Leon Edwards. Now that he's lost to JDM, I would like to see the narrative flip to what actually happened. Leon Edwards made that fight close. And JDM ultimately is the champion now. Who knows what we do next? If it's Gary, I think that JDM beats Gary. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be Shevchenko. And if you can believe it, I would actually still pick Shevchenko. I'd pick... No. I would pick JDM to beat Shevchenko. I would. I'd pick JDM to beat Gary. Do I think I'd pick JDM to beat Islam Makhachev, though? I think that's when I have to start to say no to that one. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with JDM next. It seems like Shevchenko's injured. He's been posting on Instagram. Apparently he's like very injured. He's going to be out for a long time. That kind of sucks. So I think it's probably going to be JDM versus Gary or JDM versus Makhachev, depending on what happens. Giacomo Maddalena get it done. He didn't get it done by knockout like I thought, but I mean, it was such a dominant performance that you got to give him his credit. You got to give him his flowers. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next one.